If you were to ask a biologist to design the perfect ultimate survival machine, they would never ever build a human being. On paper, we are a walking biological disaster. We have absolutely no thick fur to protect us from the freezing cold. We don't have razor-sharp claws to fight off predators. Our natural eyesight in the dark is pitiful, and our sense of smell is practically non-existent compared to a basic house cat. But our biggest, most terrifying design flaw, the one that almost wiped our entire species off the map before we even built our first city, is hidden deep inside the way we reproduce. If you look at the animal kingdom, childbirth is usually a highly efficient, low-drama event. When a wild horse or a giraffe goes into labor, the mother simply drops to the ground, or even stays standing up. The baby slides out in about 20 minutes. It hits the grass, shakes itself off, and within an hour, it is actively running alongside the herd. The mother barely bleeds, she doesn't scream, and she immediately goes right back to grazing as if nothing happened. But for a human being, childbirth is a chaotic, agonizing, life-threatening trauma that can stretch on for days. Why? Because millions of years ago, human evolution made a massive, violently conflicting mistake. Anthropologists call it the obstetrical dilemma. Long before we conquered the planet, our ape-like ancestors made the evolutionary decision to stand up and walk on two legs. This was called bipedalism, and it was a massive advantage. Standing up allowed us to see over the tall grass of the African savanna, to spot predators, and it freed up our hands to carry heavy sticks, throw rocks, and eventually forge lethal weapons. But gravity is a cruel master. To walk upright without our internal organs falling out, the human skeleton had to completely redesign itself. Our pelvis radically changed shape. It became shorter, wider, and incredibly thick. The hips narrowed, and the birth canal, the pathway a baby must travel through to enter the world, became incredibly tight, rigid, and twisted. This narrow pelvis was perfect for running down prey. But there was a massive, lethal catch. At the exact same time, our hips were getting smaller. Our brains were rapidly mutating to become larger. We were getting smarter. We were discovering fire, inventing complex hunting strategies, and developing language. And to hold all of that new intelligence, the human infant's skull had to balloon in size. Evolution had accidentally created a mechanical nightmare. It was trying to force a massive, bowling ball-sized infant skull through a narrow, twisting bone canal that was physically too small to easily accommodate it. We are the only mammal on the planet where the infant actually has to perform a complex, agonizing series of physical rotations inside the mother just to escape the womb without getting entirely stuck. The baby's head has to enter the pelvis sideways. Then, midway through, the baby must violently twist its neck 90 degrees to fit through the narrowest part of the bone. Then the shoulders have to rotate. It is a millimeter-perfect biological puzzle. In the Stone Age, if that baby rotated the wrong way, or if the infant's head was just a fraction of an inch too large, the entire process came to a dead, terrifying halt. There were no epidurals to numb the crushing pain. There were no heart rate monitors to check if the baby was still breathing. And there was absolutely no such thing as an emergency C-section. If the baby got stuck 30,000 years ago, there was no rescue. The mother and the child simply died a slow, agonizing death on the dirt floor of a cave. Prehistoric infant and maternal mortality rates were staggeringly high. When archaeologists dig through ancient burial sites, they constantly unearth a horrifying tragedy: the fossilized skeletons of young Stone Age women with the tiny, fragile bones of an unborn infant still trapped perfectly inside their pelvis. But even if the baby was positioned perfectly, the nightmare was just beginning. Imagine the brutal, suffocating reality of a prehistoric birth. You are deep in the Ice Age. The temperature outside is below freezing. You are lying on a pile of animal skins in a damp, pitch-black cave. The pain radiating through your spine is so blinding that it makes your vision blur. Every single muscle in your abdomen is violently convulsing, trying to push a heavy, oversized skull through a canal made of solid bone. And you are not allowed to scream. In the modern hospital, women scream in agony, and nobody blames them. It is the most painful experience a human body can endure. But in the Paleolithic era, a scream was a death sentence. The ancient world was ruled by hyper-aggressive apex predators. Dire wolves, cave hyenas, and saber-toothed tigers were constantly patrolling the darkness, and their sense of smell was legendary. The thick metallic scent of blood and amniotic fluid spilling onto the dirt was already acting as a massive beacon, drawing predators toward the cave. If the mother screamed, the predators wouldn't just smell the blood, they would pinpoint the exact location of the vulnerable prey. So, an ancient mother had to endure the ultimate biological torture in complete terrifying silence. She would bite down on a piece of tough leather or a thick stick until her gums bled, swallowing her screams, staring into the dark, praying the wolves pacing outside the cave would not come in. But here is the most incredible, awe-inspiring twist to this entire brutal reality. Because of this massive biological flaw, humans were forced to invent civilization. Remember how the human birth canal is twisted? Because of that twist, when a human baby finally emerges, it is facing backward, away from the mother. If you watch a monkey or a chimpanzee give birth, the baby comes out facing the mother. The mother simply reaches down, grabs the baby, and pulls it up to her chest. But because a human baby emerges facing the opposite direction, the mother cannot easily reach down and guide it out. If she tries to pull the infant toward her, she risks bending its neck backward and snapping its fragile spine. Unlike almost every other animal on Earth, human beings physically cannot give birth alone safely. We require assistance. We need someone to catch the baby. This biological glitch forced ancient humans to do something beautiful. It birthed the concept of the prehistoric midwife. When a woman went into labor, she wasn't abandoned. The other women of the tribe would gather around her in the dark. They would physically hold her up, supporting her body weight. They would guide the infant out, ensuring its neck didn't snap. They would use handfuls of dry moss to wipe the blood away. And when the baby was finally out, they didn't have sterilized surgical scissors to cut the umbilical cord. They would use a razor-sharp piece of chipped flint rock to slice through the thick, rubbery cord. Or in desperate situations, they would literally bite through it with their own teeth. They fought a brutal, bloody war against biology, relying entirely on tribal sisterhood and sheer willpower to drag new life into a freezing, predator-filled world. They did not let each other die alone. And then, there is you. Today, reproducing looks less like a biological survival test and more like a luxury vacation package. You walk into a sterilized, temperature-controlled, brilliantly lit hospital room. You are surrounded by a highly trained team of doctors and nurses armed with surgical steel, fetal heart monitors, and advanced sonogram machines. Before you even feel a single contraction, you demand a massive needle full of high-grade, scientifically engineered anesthetics to be injected directly into your spinal fluid so you don't have to feel a single ounce of discomfort below your waist. You have a printed, laminated birth plan that you hand to the medical staff, instructing them on the exact brightness of the lights in the room. You bring a Bluetooth speaker and complain to the nurses if your carefully curated, soothing birth playlist isn't playing at the perfect volume. You complain that the hospital ice chips are slightly too crunchy. You get incredibly irritated because the Wi-Fi in the maternity ward is a little slow, and it is taking too long to upload a picture of your $200 customized hospital gown to your social media followers. And if, by some microscopic chance, the baby's head is angled slightly wrong, the doctor doesn't panic. They simply wheel you into an operating theater, cleanly slice open your abdomen, safely remove the child, and sew you back together using dissolvable stitches. 3 days later, you're sitting on your expensive couch at home, ordering takeout from a delivery app because you are too exhausted to cook. Your ancient ancestors were delivering massive, oversized babies in the freezing mud. They were biting down on a piece of dirty leather to keep from screaming, surrounded by nothing but the women of their tribe and the terrifying, pitch-black cold of the Ice Age. They didn't have monitors. They didn't have painkillers. Every single time they brought a child into the world, they were staring death directly in the eyes, fighting an evolutionary glitch that wanted to kill them, and they won. You are the direct descendant of those unkillable, savage women. Your entire bloodline, your entire existence only happened because thousands of prehistoric mothers survived the ultimate biological death trap. You are piloting a body forged in the fires of prehistoric agony. Respect the sacrifice, stop complaining about the Wi-Fi, and remember what it actually took to get you here.